Now, a company that Twitter paid $40 million for almost 2 years ago is at risk of being closed down for repeatedly failing to publish its accounts. TweetDeck Limited has been fined for a second time after missing deadlines to file with Companies House in December and in September of last year. Companies House has told Sky News it will now move to strike the company from the register. Joining me now, Morn A, who is a corporate solicitor at Mackerel, Turner and Garrett. A very good afternoon to you. TweetDeck, we assume, is still trading. Is it a problem that it's been struck off? Or has not yet been struck off? It's got 90 days, hasn't it?
It hasn't yet been struck off. Companies House and the Registrar of Companies have written two formal letters to the company, and they've inquired as to whether the company is still trading. It looks like Companies House hasn't received any response, and now is looking to the next stage of the winding up process.
Can a company still trade if it's been struck off?
Well, if the company is struck off, the directors are liable to be prosecuted. It's a criminal conviction that can mean prison and a fine for the company. Without management, the company can't continue trading.
Let's be clear about this. If it's struck off the register at Companies House, this company, TweetDeck Limited, no longer exists as a company.
It no longer exists. And if it is struck off, as I've mentioned, the directors will be liable to a fine and imprisonment, and the company will have to pay a fine depending on the length of delay for filing the accounts.
This is mind-boggling, not least because, as I said in the introduction there, Twitter paid such a large amount of money for this company just about 18 months ago. Presumably, and we don't know the details here, partly because Twitter will not tell us or make any public statement on this, but presumably, potentially, Twitter stands to lose quite a lot here, doesn't it?
Well, it's not an insubstantial investment, and considering it was made only 2 years ago, you wonder why this has happened. Now, this could be an innocent mistake. The directors could simply have not signed off the accounts. There could be a lack of communication between the directors and their professional advisors who are tasked with filing the company's accounts. At this stage, it's uncertain, but it is a very serious problem.
How often does this sort of thing happen? How often are companies struck off?
This type of occurrence isn't very common. 90% of companies fully comply with their filing obligations. It's even less common when you talk about a global brand, a large company such as Twitter, even though it has a UK subsidiary. It's even less common in those circumstances.
What happens next?
Well, the registrar, if it's satisfied that the company is no longer trading, for example, it doesn't receive any reply from the directors of the company, will publish a notice in the London Gazette of its intention to strike the company off. Then it is entitled to strike the company off after 3 months.
You must be looking at this and scratching your head a bit, no?
It is very, very puzzling. I suspect in this circumstance what will happen is the directors will get a bit of a slap on the wrist, the company will pay a fine, and they will find their accounts.
But presumably, big companies pay people to do their accounts for them. I mean, this is surely a company that's been poorly advised, isn't it?
That's what's the puzzling thing. You look at a company like Twitter, it should have all the structure in place, the professional advisors who are advising it in relation to its filing obligations in any jurisdiction, and they should be keeping on top of this. This is a worry for shareholders and the public perception of the company.
Mornay, corporate solicitor at Mackerel, Turner and Garrett, thank you very much for joining us for that and sharing your thoughts on that news there that Twitter, or TweetDeck Limited, bought by Twitter in May of 2011 for $40 million, risks being struck off by Companies House. Companies House has initiated proceedings to strike the company off.